Hey, good Sunday morning to you all. This is Tim O coming from my little town here. Rain is dropping a little bit on and off, but I got all the plants out. I have my sisters coming over today, my two sisters, Maureen and Lorraine. They're coming over to visit with Carol and I, and we're going to host a little get together. And it's in honor of my mother. My mother's been gone a few years now, and she would love that we, get together, and I try to do it, at least once every year or once every couple years. And I've been thinking about my mother lately, and everything that she was, and everything that defined her. And I think it would be nice to just come around, eat some food, talk about some old memories, talk about some new stuff going on, and just have a nice day. But today I wanted to talk about an album. I'm talking about these albums that really inspired me through life. I did The Dead, I did The Stones, I did a Hendrix one. And this one today is the Beatles' White Album. And this is an old oh, Jesus. I've had it for many a moon now. That's the gatefold. And it's just, I've had this album. You can see there's some wear on it. You can't really see it because it's such a white album. But this is an iconic masterpiece of an album. And it came out in 1968. And it came out, after they had gone on that retreat down to India with the Maharishi. And, in the beginning, they were really into it. They were all trying to find themselves, and they thought that this transcendental meditation was going to be it. And it really took for a little while. They were down there for a while. I don't think Ringo really got into it, but and Paul was kind of like, yeah, I'll go along with it. But Lennon and Harrison were really into it, and Harrison ended up staying with it and doing it for the rest of his life. But they started to see cracks in what they thought was the Maharishi's actions. And years later, I believe that they did kind of say, they kind of gave him a break. They were they were at a pivotal point in their career. The end was coming soon. The sudden death of their manager Brian Epstein. That happened when they were out there. They got word, and that just shocked them because Brian was a huge part of the Beatles. He was like the fifth Beatle. He was their manager. He was their inspiration. He got them a lot of things to get them to where they were. But this album was, like I said, it's a masterpiece. And it of individuality. The four members really kind of brought their sides and their personality out in this album, probably more than in any other one. And just in my opinion, they were stripping back and going for a minimalist take on the music, opposed to like Sergeant Pepper. And that psychedelia over the top, which is, believe me, Sgt. Pepper still holds up to this day. A lot of albums from that era, when you see it, when you hear it, they're dated. But Sgt. Pepper is still a classic. And there is so much stuff on that. You can listen to that. I listen to that at least a couple times a year. And every time I hear it, I hear something else in there. It's just that great of an album. But this, like I said, it was kind of stripped back and delivered in a raw, sprawling, individualistic kind of way. And they were still together. They were still, working side by side and a cohesive unit. But as I said, this one showed their distinct personalities. And Harrison, of course, was coming more to the forefront, writing, like While My Guitar Gently Weeps and other classics, and he was really getting some recognition that he deserved, Harrison, after that, he put out, after the Beatles broke, he put out All Things Must Pass, which to me was his best studio work. But he had so much stuff on that, and that's a great album. That's 3 albums of just 3, There's 3 albums in that album, and it's just like 6 sides of great music. And but like I said, the White Album, it was really a big influence on me. I remember hearing it for the first time, and hearing like that stripped back way that they were taking that approach, the acoustic sounds, Blackbird, Julia, really great songs from McCartney. And like, they lapped the names on McCartney and Lennon-McCartney, but you could tell that they were writing differently, and they were writing out there. Lennon was writing stuff after Brian died, and while they were at that retreat, and they came back and they put it together. And it's really a very iconic, diverse work for the Beatles. Some people, it's like, oh, it's like, what happened to them, And other people that were really Beatles fans were like, this album was so personal and touching. And that's how it felt to me, it was just and even the album itself, it was just so stripped back. It was just a sparse white friggin' sleeve, nothing on it, just the name, and you could hardly even see it. You can't even see it in here. Somebody marked this thing. God knows where this thing's been. But, it said the Beatles on it, and that was really it, I don't even think it says it on the spine. It doesn't. But yeah, and it was like, wow, what's this thing? Kind of like what Zeppelin did with Zeppelin 4. No, just it was the 4 symbols that represented them. And the Beatles at this point, they just had replaced those colorful numbers. She's what is that one? She's leaving home, with that harpsichord and all that orchestration stuff from George Martin, and they just really like took it down and just presented a stripped down, beautiful piece of work. And it replaced that colorful chaos that there was, and all that was on it was just like a stamped serial number. And if you get those early ones, they're worth big money. Because I forget what it was, the first 100 or first 200, they're worth big money. This one I don't believe has a serial number on it. I don't know. It is a reissue that I had bought, but I've had it for years, but I bought it a bunch of years back. And and this, to me, it was just like, even the poster in it, there was a poster of the 4 right here. And I remember having that. I remember having it on my wall. It was a massive fold-out poster with the 4 glossy portraits of each member. And, these intimate, distinct images, they tell the story of the band's changing dynamics and personalities and what was to come. After this, really, it was Abbey Road, and then that was the end of the Beatles, But, Lennon on this, he showed a deep, intimate, and also stripped back portrait with Yoko Ono. Yoko Ono was around, and, like I said, McCartney and the others were kind of unnerved because they had this unwritten rule that, the women didn't come around. And, Lennon was bringing her to every session. And, I can see that, it's like when you're doing something, for so long. But, obviously the guy loved her. And, she brought to him that art and, just like a whole different side to him. And, he kind of left that avant-garde. She brought that avant-garde vibe to him, and he kind of left all that pop star imagery behind, and whether it was the best for him or whatever, or the band, time did tell. And Lennon went on to make some incredible work, and some patchy work. They all did. I don't think Harrison ever made a better album. You know, he made some good stuff, but never better than All Things Must Pass. McCartney went on to a real kind of pop thing, and you know those first couple albums were really good. You can find some great stuff on them. And Ringo, you know, Ringo was Ringo, as they say, you know. But he had a couple of good hits in the '70s, you know, Photograph, and it was, and you know, they all did pretty good. But you know, as a cohesive unit, they were just incredible, incredible as a band. Like them, I hate them, they really were. And you know, McCartney, you know, McCartney on this was, you know, he was just kind of like floating peacefully along, you know, just writing some really nice numbers. And, you know, Harrison, he got, you know, he was like heavily stylized in that black and white portrait of like, you know, splash of color and that playful charm and the Indian music and the sitars and all that stuff, you know, and it really worked. It really worked, you know, and you know, how great of an album this really was. Well, that's up to you. That's up to your individual opinions. Me, I think it was a fantastic album, and it stands the test of time. Glass Onion, While My Guitar Gently Weeps. There's so many great songs in this. You know, Revolution. You know, Revolution #9 was kind of like, but you know, I listened to the whole thing, and it's like, yeah, it's kind of cooked, but there was a lot of stuff that was crazy back then, you know. And I gotta give it to them; they put it out, you know. Like I'm doing these videos, I can't do it perfect. I'm not no superstar here. I just started doing these things, but I kind of love music, and I'm a guy of recovery, and I like you know, I like doing these things, and you know, so like you know, one video I did, Carol was yelling, she forgot I was doing it, you know, but that's all right. It's like the rawness of it. You make mistakes. Who's here? I'm not here to be perfect. Because I'm not a perfect guy, not by any stretch of the imagination. If I was, you know, I don't know. It's just not me. I never been perfect my whole life, but I give it a good shot, and it's, you know, by doing that, it works. But you know, I remember this album. My brother Joe was the one that turned me on to it. Not really literally. I'd just hear him playing it, and it just caught my ear. You know, and through the years, you know, I'm a very avid album collector and CD and everything. To be honest with you, I got so much the stuff on the computer, and then everything is on YouTube. And as I say, I run a couple of music channels. Can't you hear the music, and let the music do the talking? Please come by if you're on Facebook. Give it a check out. There's a lot of diverse stuff on there. A lot of stuff that's just not played on the radio, or that maybe you knew of years ago and just never hear it. And I'm a music guy, and I love it. And the Beatles, you know, their music will always be a part of my heart. And there's certain albums that I like better than others, but really, they were such a diverse band, and they were such a talented band. They truly were, and their music will span the test of time, because it already has. You know, the rock and roll, the psychedelia, the folk. You know, the stuff they like, Rubber Soul. That, you know, you could tell Dylan was a big influence on them. The psychedelia, which sprouted Cream to do Disraeli Gears, and the Beach Boys to do Pet Sounds, or vice versa, because the Beatles were very influenced by the Beach Boys too. But anyways, I just wanted to bring this album to the forefront. A fantastic album, and I wish you all a great day ahead. I know it's a little bit of rain, but do some stuff indoors, or take a little ride through the country. Just make yourselves happy. And I hope you are all having a good Memorial Day weekend. Thank you for the men and women who sacrificed their lives and their time to make this country a better place. And until we meet again, be well. This is Tim O, and happy Sunday to you.